Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Life Force Lows podcast with me. I have a very special guest today, my friend Vikki Kempker, and she is a belief code practitioner, and she is an amazing coach as well. She does so many things that have helped me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, and I say you're so much more because I believe that through the work that you're doing, that you kind of encompass so many more, energetic practices, and you have a special gift that you've already been helping me like uncover, shed the layers. Um, and so you're just amazing at what you do. So thank you for coming on here and sharing that with my audience today.
Well, thank you. And it's been a process, and I'm finally stepping into what I am meant to be doing. And now that I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing, the sessions that I'm doing with people are more powerful than ever. So it's really exciting. And when you say I've kind of created my own way of healing, and that's, I think, anyone who does energy healing and is true to what they know and their intuition, and just going, okay, does this resonate, and what that looks like, becomes their own unique healer, so that we all have the ability to be able to make a difference in someone's life on how we gravitate and resonate with.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
love your company name, Your Best Awaits.
It's gone through a couple of refreshes, but yeah, this one is, and how it came about is, first it was Your Best is Ahead, and I felt like it was always like the carrot, like, oh, one more
Oh,
thing and we'll get there. And I'm like, okay, I always felt like it's awaiting us, or it's awaiting us. So that's when I'm like, your best await. So when you do things that you take action towards what's important for you, that's when your best await. So, most of us, it's consistency is the key. And when we're consistent, and then when we're aware of I call them the strong emotional reactions. So when
mhm.
something happens to us, that's our opportunity to be able to say, oh, something is popping up in my head that I need to address. And what I find is, kind of think of it as a house on fire. When the house is on fire, that's alarms sounding like attention, attention, attention. And most of us do the equivalent of opening the window to let the smoke out,
Mhm.
and the fire's still going. It may be not as it might not be as impactful and blaring, but it's still there. And I equate that to when we have these strong emotional reactions, it's like going and taking a walk. Like, okay, that may help put out the alarms, but you
Mhm.
still have these alarms going off. They just may have silenced. So what happens is then something else happens and we respond again. And something else happens through work and we respond again. And we just keep opening up that window, letting the smoke out, but there's still those alarms blaring for us to take action. And when we do walking or eating better or meditation or journaling, and talk therapy, like all of those
Mhm.
are amazing things for the moment, like
Yes.
letting the smoke out, but it doesn't really get to why is that fire still going. And so you may have smoldered a little bit, but it's still going. And as soon as something else happens that reactivates that fire, that alarm, we sometimes will go to food and we self-sabotage and then say, well, I'm going to put this fire out by eating Reese's peanut butter cups and ice cream. And I can't just have a bite of ice cream. I'm going to have the whole pint. And heaven forbid there be more than a pint. It's like, oh, let's wait till it's not gone yet. So let's just finish it off, because then tomorrow I'm going to be back on track. And it's this dialogue in our head that keeps going because we haven't put out that fire. And
Yes, to get to the root.
yeah, and I
Yeah,
have
we need to
found
get to
that
the root.
when people get to the root, it's not a scary thing for most people because they have that dialogue going through their head anyhow. And it's,
Mhm.
if you look at it as, the another example I use is the iceberg. The conscious mind is the top of the iceberg going, oh, I'm pissed off at this. I feel rejected. I don't feel worthy enough. How can I start my own business? Because I'm going to fail. I fail at everything. So why would I
Oh my
succeed
gosh.
in this?
You're speaking my language.
Yeah, and that's the dialogue that
Yeah.
goes through the head. So it's going through whether we acknowledge it or not. And then the undercap of the iceberg is all the things that have taken place in our lifetime, because it's like, our subconscious holds every single snapshot of things that have happened in our life, from when we were in the womb, first grade, the first day of kindergarten, what we wore for our sixth birthday party,
Mhm.
when we were first felt abandoned, rejected, where we felt guilty over something. Like, the subconscious holds all of that. And when, as we get older, things take place because people, places, and things can activate it, then all of a sudden it's a big deal. And why is it not a big deal for somebody else is because they don't have that same snapshot of the picture that you're activating or someone's activating based on that dialogue going through their head. So I feel my gift is I've got the ability to go in and pluck out those pictures and go,
Mhm.
nope, what promise did you make yourself? What took place when you were bullied in school? What did you declare? And a lot of people will declare, I'm not good enough, and now they're self-conscious and they feel judged, and now they can't get up and speak in front of a group of people because they're so paranoid, and it's activating being bullied of when they were teased in school. So all of these things the subconscious knows, and that's what gets activated when we're an adult. And then we try to put out the fire by eating, scrolling on social media, all these things that are not making us, that are not fulfilling us. They're helping quiet that noise and trying to smother it. But again, the alarms are still going off. It's just not as blaring.
Yes. Oh my gosh. This is already so powerful, Vikki. And you're getting to the root. And
Yeah.
before we go on, I want to kind of backtrack a little bit,
Okay.
and share with my audience what were you doing before you started this work with the belief code, and what drew you to it? What led you down this path?
Well,
Um,
I was doing employee benefits insurance. And it's funny, I was talking to my daughter today, and I said, be careful of what you start doing when you're starting out your career, because you never know how that's going to, like, you can't get away from it because you start making the money, you start making relationships, but you may not love what you do. And I definitely realized that in my 40s, that I was good at what I did.
mhm,
There were parts of it that I liked, but it didn't light me up inside.
mhm.
And when I was in my 40s, I had a neighbor, and we were sitting in their garage, and he says, my mom went and saw this guy, and he uncovered things that she didn't even realize were holding her back, and he was just able to release it and let it go. And I'm like, I want to go see him.
Yeah.
And that's what shifted my awareness of, oh, there is a way to be able to release things. And words matter, and words matter when we say things. I believe I
Mhm.
was a better parent because I was able to realize, going, oh, I remember when my mom said something like this. Now I'm very sensitive to that. So, you know, body image issues. I mean, always did my best not to show my daughter that I may not have been happy with my body image, and be grateful for everything it is, so that I didn't pass down those images and those beliefs to them.
Mhm.
And, even I feel if I was conscious enough, that consciousness of, yes, words matter, I was able to quickly reframe and do all these things. So from that perspective, he then showed me what theta healing was. And theta healing, I was like, oh my gosh, that's when the intuitiveness really came alive, to say, oh, I can scan somebody's body and see, oh, in the shoulder or in the liver, like, here's blockages. And then those blockages are beliefs and emotions that are trapped in there. And it wasn't my time and place to be able to launch my business, although several things, like my logo, for example, came in that point in time when I was just starting my spiritual journey. Um,
Mm.
Fast forward a little bit, and I had a tough time explaining what energy healing was.
Mm.
And it wasn't until I read the emotion code with Dr. Nelson that he says life happens. And when
Mm.
life happens, those those imbalances stay in the body and magnify when we when that comes out in our behavior or actions or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
So that's when I went and got certified through Belief Code. I think it was a year later I did Body Code. And then I think I was within the first month of when Belief Code came out. I was like, do I do this? Do I not do this? And something said, yes, do it.
Yes.
So I did that. And then through a
Mhm.
series of things, I had to take a stand for my health. And I left corporate America to launch Your Best Awaits. And again, that's when I feel everything just came into alignment to say, and I would say, God, you got me through this. I truly believe that I was pushed to my purpose. So you brought me to this, bring me through this. And through that, the ability to be able to help people identify limiting blocks and identify through ages, just through muscle testing. I'm in awe every time I do a session that what that person needs shows up, resonates with them, and we're able to release that energetic tie to it that allows them the freedom to have peace, sometimes for the first time in their life.
Yes. I know. And I'm so surprised, you've done 2 sessions on me, and we did a really powerful one yesterday. And I was really feeling it in my body and my solar plexus today. Yes.
Yeah. And then it's funny, I think we're both wearing orange. So I think we both have this,
Yeah.
the solar plexus of, and that's where, that's where they say that's the second brain. And when you're paying attention
Yeah.
to that, that allows you to, to again, own who you are in a way that we haven't done that before.
Yes. And it seems like that's been my biggest struggle lately, is really owning who I am and trying to figure out, well, who the heck am I?
Yeah.
Because I've had all these things holding me back for so long, and I think we all have. And so we can uncover that and we can release it.
Yeah. And that's where, and you're right. Someone asked me how long, how many sessions do you need? And I'm like, I've been doing energy healing with my practitioner and different practitioners for the past decade, because
Yeah.
things come up, new people come into your life, and all of a sudden, like, why am I going to food again? Why am I feeling like I'm all irritated, or I just want to eye roll? And it's, they remind you part of your past in that photo album, because it's somebody new in your life. So a new job, a new relationship, a new coworker. As your kids get older, they all of a
Oh
sudden start
gosh.
doing,
Yes.
yeah, they start activating our past.
Yes.
And that's where I'll tell people, if we can do a session as close to when you felt triggered as and responded in a way that you felt was not becoming of you, that's that alarm going off. And we can get right to, okay, what is the root of this? And how is this showing up in your life? And where are all the times that it stopped you in your tracks, where it didn't do anything except you buried it, or you thought you buried it. And the subconscious again is saying, I want you to be happy. I want you to live your purpose. And anything that we can uncover to do that, I'm here for you.
Yes, I know, because we are meant to live our best life,
Yeah.
And so we're not meant to have, all these things that are kind of weighing us down and holding us back. We
Yeah.
can, and I was just thinking about this morning, is like, I've been doing all these different things throughout my life to help, like therapy, and I've been on the spiritual journey, and I've been trying to figure out, who am I? But it wasn't until I started to do some sessions with you and another a body code practitioner that I realized, wow, I've got some deep seated beliefs, core beliefs that are really holding me back, and I don't even realize it.
Yeah. And, I say this in seriousness and in an exaggerated way. Like, life is meant to be easy, and we've got that easy button, and we don't use it enough. And when things aren't easy, now again, not every single moment of our life is going to be easy. That's not what I mean. But when you're in a relationship, when you're in a friendship, when you're in a working co-space, if you're just walking away, you feel like you're in fight or flight and you're just always on edge,
Mhm.
that's not the easy button. And that's when, that's being activated. And in some cases, like I said, for me, I end up having to take a stand for my health and go, no, you want me to do something that I don't feel is in my highest and best long term for my health. I have to take a stand for myself. Now, I could have easily just gone, okay, fine, we'll just see what happens. And then I would have been resisting, and I would not, that's not the easy button. And again, walking away from a career and an income that had me comfortable is not the easy button, but it is easy in the fact of I don't have the stress of that anymore. Now it's just, okay, how do I take steps to do something that is my passion, that is my purpose, that I know I'm guided to do, and work through those obstacles, and then create a way to go, oh, this can be fun. um, but it feels so much better. I mean, that stress that I have, I use that to motivate me, going, okay, connecting to God, connected to your guides, connecting to the angels, and say, okay, what do I need to do next? I surrender and go, what do I need? And when we're quiet with that, we will get the next step of ways when we're doing it for our purpose. And for some people who are not in an ideal scenario, the answer may be you need to find a new job. You may need to reconsider a friendship, a relationship. As much as, our family is important, sometimes those are toxic. And
Oh, yeah.
some of the hardest things is to step away from it. But for the people who have done it, it's the best decision of their life. When I stopped drinking alcohol and went carnivore, I have people that chose not to want to hang out with me as much.
Mhm.
And I just had to look at it and go, these people aren't going home and going to bed with me and realizing that I have hot flashes when I drink, because then when I drink, I want to come home and binge eat on food.
Yep.
And then my night's sleep is horrible. And to me, like, that's not worth it either. So, when we do things that are taking us to what we're meant to be doing, sometimes it can be a lonely road. But when we share what we're doing, all of a sudden we start getting all these other people in our lives. I mean, that's how you and I had met, is
Yeah.
because through a series of people saying, you're amazing, you need to come here. Oh my gosh, you need to meet this person. Oh, and I'll say, oh, I need to connect you here. That's when we start building these communities, because, again, through carnivore and no alcohol, it can be very lonely. But when you start realizing and saying, this is who I am, it's like, oh, you know what? So am I. And that's when
Yes.
it's like, oh my gosh, this feels good. And
Mhm.
then we can, it's cool when you choose to stand in your purpose, and even taking things, because some people can't just walk away from what they're doing, but even doing action every single day that is helping you towards what is fulfilling for each person is vital. Like for me, I'm not great at journaling. Like when
Mm.
I force myself to journal, it doesn't come natural. So it's okay, if that doesn't come natural, what is something else that can come natural? I think we push
Mhm.
ourselves to go, oh, I've got to do this, this, and this
Yeah.
to be fulfilling and to be happy and to do all this stuff. And that's not the easy button. Like if something doesn't resonate, okay, well, what can you do that's going to do something similar? Maybe it's, talking to yourself, talking out loud to yourself, go for a walk and talk. And that's a way to get
Yeah.
the inside voice out, to go, oh, I didn't realize that, when I say this out loud, this is how it sounds, because that inside dialogue is constantly going. So,
Yes. The
again,
good
just
old
remember,
self-critic.
yes. And if it's not easy, like, okay, how can I change this dialogue? How can I change my actions to have it be easy?
I love that, the easy button.
Yes.
Yes, yes, because you're right. It's not meant to be so hard.
Right. And some of
Yeah.
us have had really challenging lives,
Hmm.
and some of us
Yeah.
have not had challenging lives, but things happen to us,
Hmm.
and, someone being bullied, and somebody who, whose parents may have gone through a divorce, even though it was amicable and they got used to it.
Hmm.
People who are forced to change schools, like all of those things that, they didn't have any, people call it the big T, the trauma.
Yeah.
Like, what happens, the worst thing to happen to somebody is the worst thing to happen. And who's it to say that somebody's who was bullied in school is any different than somebody who's, had alcoholic parents or who had abuse. Like,
Yeah, I always say, like, I don't compare my trauma to your trauma to someone else's trauma.
yeah,
Even though I've had a lot of the big T's and the little T's, all the
yeah.
T's. But I also made a choice too to overcome those,
Yeah,
to figure out, okay, how can I get through this hard time in my life?
yeah,
And also now I feel like I'm trying to recover from how I did cope.
yeah.
And there's many different ways that our mind, our subconscious mind holds on to things in our body and in our mind. And so that's why I'm really enjoying this healing process.
And I will add the fact of talk therapy and all of
Mhm.
that is great. I mean, it allows somebody to say things out loud. So it does have a shift in their body. But
Yeah.
there's oftentimes I'm working with people and they'll say, "Oh, I thought I dealt with that."
Ah,
And I'll
yeah.
say, you know what? I believe you have dealt with it in a lot of ways, but you still have that energetic tie. It's like it
Yes.
smoldered the fire. And now we can go, oh, let's put it out officially. And and that's where some of these getting to the root of issues can be imperative because it still may be smoldering where you can talk about it and it doesn't give you the same reaction as it had before, but you still do get a response. Or when I say that it's come up, like somebody, I had dealt with somebody who their mom had cut their hair and she looked like a boy and she hated it and her mom loved it, and she couldn't get past the fact of she still had some anger towards her mom. And when it came up, it was helping her reframe it and then release that energetic tie. And it does make a difference in that, oh, okay, you know what? I can look at it differently and I can release that energetic tie. And now I'm not having that anger and that bitterness every single time now. And that smoldering just goes out.
Yeah. And that's just such a great feeling, right?
Yeah.
When you can, put out these little fires and these big fires and you can release these things that you've been carrying. It's such a heavy load to
Yeah.
carry these energies.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't realize, like, where are they coming from? Why can't I love myself? Or why can't I have self-confidence? And it turns out it was something that happened, a long, long time ago.
Yeah. And the other thing is, people set goals. So when they set goals of, I'm
Mm.
going to do carnivore, I'm going to be alcohol free, I'm going to take steps towards my purpose. And then they're taking the steps, and then all of a sudden it's like a tree falling in the path. And all of a
Ah,
sudden they're like,
yes.
"Oh no, I can't move forward anymore." And I look at it, what I'm doing is I'm helping release that tree so they can keep
Mm.
going.
Oh,
And
I love that.
so a lot of times people will say, I didn't notice a big shift after the session, but all of a sudden I
Mm.
started doing this, and the other. And I wasn't doing those before. And that's when I equate to saying, you don't have to know that the tree, was cleared from the path. You just know that something took place. And now, oh, it's easier for you to do all of these steps. And then all of a sudden you
Yes.
might get stuck again. And it's like, okay, we release that. And now you're taking more steps. And it's just, it's so rewarding to be able to see that people who realize going, there is other ways to heal. And a lot of times people come to me going, I've tried everything, I'm sick and tired of feeling horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And we can go through a session and the things that come up, it's like, wow, that made so much sense. And
Mm-hmm.
now they're able to again do things that are important to them versus just the whole dialogue in the back of the head or in the front of the head. So it's almost like you've got all this
Oh,
dialogue going on and you don't know what it is, and we're bringing it to the front, and all of a sudden it's, oh, now I see what this is, and now we can go, okay, we release it.
well, yeah. And maybe you can walk us through an example of how exactly the belief code works for people that, may not know anything about it or want to get kind of like an idea of how it
Yeah.
looks.
So I always start the session off with, where in your life do you feel that you've got limiting beliefs, or you feel
Mhm.
stuck, or what has come up that you've responded in a way that is not so becoming of you? And whatever that is where we start. And sometimes I'll say 2 or 3 things, and then I muscle test. So I muscle test with the ringed ring. So show me yes, show me no. And I'll muscle test, like, whatever that is. Is it because, they ate ice cream last night and they're so disgusted with themselves? And so let's just use that. Well, there's different tools I can use between limiting beliefs to say, okay, what is the highest and best with grace and ease for this person to identify why they were going for the chocolate ice cream, or
Mhm.
why they were stuck, or why whatever happened. And it guides you through the process. And through the belief code is, you've got a tree, and your branches or the leaves are all the limiting programming. Then you have your
Mm.
branches, that's the limiting beliefs. You've got your tree trunk, that's your faulty core identity. And then you've got your soil and your foundation and all the roots, that's the faulty core belief.
Oh,
And
okay.
when you're, and I don't always follow, I kind of use my intuitiveness of what takes place. And I've got some other
Yeah.
modalities that I bring into the session, but it's tied to a limiting belief of
Mhm.
why you're eating chocolate ice cream, or why you're stuck. And as we go through the process, then I'll say, sometimes I'll go, okay, nope, time to find out an age. So then I'll muscle test to go, okay, is it in the womb? Is it 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 10, 11, 12? Oh, at age 12 is the first time you felt unworthy, or you weren't happy. Okay, so let's then go through your timeline and clear all the times that I have not been happy has shown up in your life. And then all of a
Mhm.
sudden, for me, how I do my sessions is my hand will stop, and then I'm like, okay, what age is this? And
Oh.
that's when the ages pop up. Okay, this is 32. Okay. And then I'll say 32, and somebody will be able to identify it. That's when I got divorced. That's when, my child went to college. And so I do a healing on that. And then I go through the timeline. Okay, 18 is showing up. Oh, that's, I was supposed to go to college, and I didn't. And, my parents have never looked at me the same. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
okay, well, let's clear that. And then you go all the way. And, sometimes it goes back to, I've had someone where it's gone back to age, let's use age 3. And they're like, that's when my father passed away, or that's when my father left the family. And now they feel, that, they've got to feel rejected, or, they were felt abandoned, but it equated to a limiting belief of, I'm not happy. And they've lived with I'm not happy as an underlying dialogue in the back of their head
Mhm.
ever since. And they don't realize that their chocolate ice cream, or them being stuck with what they're going through right now, has to do with age 3, when their father left it, because that was the first time they felt that emotion or that belief.
Oh, yes. And that is so powerful, I want to say.
Yes.
Like, having some sessions with you, um, I'm seeing, that you use all these different modalities, and I don't even know how you come up with these answers, but you're always spot on for me. Um,
Yeah.
I'm like, where did you get that?
Well, and I just look at it as, because I'm tapping into your photo album. It's like your photo album's
Yeah.
popping up going, nope, right here. This is a picture you need to look at right now. So that's
Oh,
how I look at it, is, the intuitiveness, and then just asking, like, where's this showing up? And it's that photo album. And then just like plucking those pictures out, so if it's a series of pictures, plucking them out and going, you know, what did they, you know, what did they declare? Sometimes people make a promise. I swear I will never, I'm not good enough. I
yeah.
declare that I'm never enough. And then they realize going, or I'm reject me. They can have a billboard on the front of their head saying, reject me.
Yeah.
Well, like, well, no wonder I can't keep friendships, is because I've got something that says reject me.
Yes.
And then you
That
have
was that
people,
was the one that I had. The first,
yeah,
I think the
and
first
that's,
session. And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense to me now.
yeah, and I've, and that's not an uncommon billboard to have in front of them. So that does show up for a
Yeah.
lot of people. And it's fascinating. And I'm grateful every time. And like I said, I'm in awe every time, is because between me connecting to the creator of all that is, the guides,
Hmm.
the angels, and connecting to their subconscious, the photo album, the answers make sense to the person. Like there's times I'll hear something and I'm like, oh, and like I like say it.
Yes.
And then, it was extremely powerful because, it's powerful. So that's when there's times I'm like, I can't say that out loud. And it's like, yes, you do, because it will
Yeah.
resonate with them. So
And it
it's,
does. And then sometimes what I've experienced is that I've buried all these memories and I forgot about them, right? Because I buried them, right? I don't want to remember them. But then you pull it out and you say, well, this happened. Does this make sense? I'm like, oh my gosh. No. Oh yeah. I remember when that happened. I totally forgot about that.
yeah. And I want to add to that
Yeah.
because I feel like there's a lot of people who get hesitant to say, oh my gosh, I don't want to relive that. Like, I don't want
Yeah.
her to go there. I
Okay.
always say to the highest and best with grace and ease. And I do believe that if somebody doesn't want to, like, if they're unsure of the process of this, like on the
Mm-hmm.
first session, it's not going to bring up something unless that is what's meant to be brought up. So for
Oh
many
yeah.
people, it's like that's not the highest and best now with grace and ease. That's hard and abrupt, and that would turn them off. So
Mm.
it might get close to something like that, but it's not going to all of a sudden go to this thing that people can be afraid of in their past, until they realize going, oh, this is what it feels like to have this released. Okay, maybe now it's okay to address something. Like I had somebody come to me that she was ready to address all the molestation that she'd had in her life. Like she'd done enough therapy. She's, I'm tired of this holding me back. So she wanted to go
Mm.
there right then and there. Um,
Oh, wow.
and it was extremely powerful. And
Yeah.
then there's people that it just dabbles on the edge of it, so that it's like, okay, we're getting close, but they're not ready to have it come up in a session,
Hmm.
and it
Well,
might
yeah,
come up
you have to be,
two or
I
three
found you have to
later.
be ready. You do
Yeah,
have to be ready. And
yeah,
sometimes you don't realize that you're ready for certain things, but you are.
yeah, 100%. So I always like to add the caveat to the fact of, if you're hesitating, going, okay, maybe this is something that's for me, but I don't want this to come up. Your subconscious isn't going to do that to you. Again, the intention is, and your body and your subconscious, they want you to have peace. And if you don't want to go there, that's not going to come up on the first, maybe even second or third session.
Hmm.
And then it may bring you the fact of, okay, you know what? I am ready to see how this is holding me back. And again, timing, and it's all perfect for them.
Yes, yes. It is with the highest good. And that's why
Yes.
I always ask before I do any kind of healing or go, I'm like, just, allow whatever is in my highest good to come through in
Yeah.
the session because I believe that that is actually what does happen. Things that are not in our highest good aren't going to come through,
Right.
you know?
And I add grace and ease because sometimes when you're
Yeah.
releasing all of these heavy energies, like you don't want
Hmm.
this person to all of a sudden at the end of the day to be exhausted and they can't function because it's
Yeah.
draining to them. So the grace and ease allows it to transition. So, sometimes I'll hear it's going to take X amount of days to process. So just be gracious
Yeah.
and kind to yourself for the next couple of days as it's processing, and just know that, you might feel more tired, or you might be more emotional, or you might feel like you want to eat more.
Hmm.
That's just your way to be able to, like, it's almost like you're fighting it, but it's like, no, I'm not succumbing to that. I'm better than this. And I just need to be kind to myself.
Yes, that self-care.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
self-care.
that's what I've been working on more of. Yeah. I need to take time. We all need to take time for ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah,
And give ourselves love and compassion,
yes,
and I don't think we do that enough.
no. And also then understanding, what does compassion mean for, do we know what compassion means? Being kind to
Mm.
ourselves, because how many times are we talking to ourselves and we're beating ourselves up, and it's like, would I say this to my best friend? Would I say this to my sibling, my sister, my daughter, my mom? Like, no.
Oh, yeah.
but we're saying it to ourselves like it's no big deal. And sometimes that's just realizing, going, okay, how can I give myself grace? How can I just go, you know what, for right now, for the next 20 seconds, I am divinely perfect the way I am. I said, I have chills as I say this right now. Like, remind
Yeah.
ourselves that we are right on track. And when we're open to saying, what else can I do? The universe will provide. If we're quiet enough to go, what am I meant to do? What am I meant to do in the next day, in this next moment? Because sometimes it is, I got 10 minutes and it's like, okay, maybe I can be quiet for 3 minutes and just go, what do I need to do right now? And sometimes it's like,
Mhm.
just go get a drink of water. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's like, take 5 deep breaths. For some, it
Mhm.
might be go outside, get some fresh air because you've been inside all day. Like
Yeah.
those times when we listen, I'll tell people, like, when you ask a question and you start to hear the answer, or you acknowledge it and go, oh, say thank you. Show me more of these moments.
Mm.
Because the more we come in a place of gratitude and awareness, like, oh, I see you, I hear you, the more we acknowledge it and say it, the more that will come to us. And that's an amazing shift that people can do today is, what do I need to do more at peace? Okay, you need to take deep breaths. Oh my God. Okay, you know what? After I got off the phone, I took 3 deep breaths. Thank you. Pat yourself on the back. Show me more of these moments.
I
And
love
you'll
that.
you'll do it more often. And that's a way to shift your energy to so that the universe knows that yes, you're serious about doing something for yourself.
Yes, because I feel like a lot of us do know what we need to do, but it's that the action, like actually doing it.
Yeah.
And so what forces us into action?
Yeah. And that's where, again, I go, your best awaits. I mean, when you take action and take those 3 deep breaths, your best
Hmm.
awaits you now, because now you're in a better place to be able to handle a conversation with your kids and, how to break up their fight. How to say, let me take 5 minutes and read a book because I don't do anything for myself. So our best awaits is when you do something that is towards finding inner peace, and
Mm.
everybody's is a little bit different, but every time we can go, oh, that felt good. I felt my body, even just doing that, like touching here and just going, okay, I'm important. I felt my whole body release. Like, that's how
Yes.
like, thank you. Show me more of these moments. And when we do that, we will start to feel that shift. And then it's easier to do things. And even when you have this, even though you may be opening the window to put the fire out, if you're doing it in a way that is like that brings awareness to, okay, you know what, I'm not going to go eat today because that's normally what I would do. That's a victory. Now, it may not
Mm.
get to put the fire out, but you're not doing it to add any fuel to it. You're basically going, you know what, I'm putting myself first. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to I'm going to I had a puzzle, and in my very stressful times, I would have a puzzle in my kitchen table. And I
Mm.
would be like, when I'm frustrated, when I get an email that I just don't want to deal with, or I have to make a phone call, or I'm triggered after a phone call. Okay, instead of going to the kitchen and getting food, go put 10 pieces to the puzzle. And when I would do that, it would take my mind off of it. And then oftentimes I would hear an answer like, no, you don't need to do this. Or what if you did this? How would that help the scenario? So
Yeah.
oftentimes you get out of the scenario and go, okay, let me go take a walk. Let me go put puzzles pieces together. Let me do 10 squats because now I'm gonna, my booty's gonna be on fire because I'm doing squats. Um,
Yeah.
and it allows you to be able to hear things and do things differently.
Yeah. And actually, as you were talking, I was reminded a friend of mine, because I used to do a lot of affirmations. And she gave me this idea of affirmations, like
Yeah.
what if your life was like this, or what if this was your reality, right?
Yeah.
What if? And I love the affirmations too.
Yeah. No, and I look at it and go, how do you ask yourself the easy question? So why is it so easy for me to work out every morning? Why is it so
Mm,
easy for me to focus on my business. Oh, when I focus on my business, that lights me up.
Yeah.
So if I say, why is it so, why is it so hard for me to make videos and make content? I'm going to
Mhm.
give you all the ways of negative. Like that's not addressing, that's not providing a solution. And that's
Yeah.
that negative feedback loop of I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not, I don't want to be judged. I'm coming from a place of embarrassment. Like all of those things where if I say, why is it so easy for me to, that puts you into a solution mode and it allows that dialogue to be positive. And for many, it's the key for them to realize going, oh, I need to be in solution mode, not in problem mode.
Oh, yes. I love
So
that.
asking yourself, why is it so hard? Or why can't I do this? That's the
Mhm.
problem mode. But why is it so easy? Or what if, and in a positive, like those are all things that put you into where your best awaits.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
And like let's talk a little bit about what else do you offer in your practice? I know you offer the belief code and all this energy work and your unique gift and skill to really tap into people's energy. And what else do you encompass?
So I have two things. So one of them is coaching. So for
Mhm.
someone who says, I want to do X, so it's going to be, I want to start my business. I want to get off I'm a sugar addict. So, you know, for me, it was how do I stop eating sugar? Like, how do I
Mhm.
change this lifestyle? So I work with people over 3 months and we meet weekly. And when we meet weekly and they say, oh, I caved. I had chocolate ice cream. We can go right then and there to go, okay, what does chocolate ice cream represent for you? And we can
Mm.
do a lot of times like from my scenario, mine was Reese's peanut butter cup.
Mm.
And when I would be stressed and when I would get pissed off or afraid, like that was my go-to drug was Reese's peanut butter cup. Well, what it ended up being, that meant to me is it replaced love. And
Oh.
the memory I have is it went back to when I was 7. My dad would get my mom, my sister, and I a red rose, our favorite candy bar, and a greeting card for Valentine's Day.
Mm.
So, my Reese's were my favorite. So as I got into my 20s and I'm figuring life out, all of a sudden I'm binging on Reese's peanut butter cups. It would start at 2, and then I would go buy a bag, and I'm 3/4 of the way through the bag, and I'm like, oh, might as well finish it now because then I won't have any for tomorrow. But what I was really craving is love and self-love.
Mm.
So when I realized that, I was able to disassociate Reese's to love. So now Reese's is toxic and love is love, but it allowed me then, but I needed to change those habits because then I had an addiction. So it wasn't necessarily, a trigger, but now that was an addiction. So if I
Mm.
can help people every week of saying, I want to set my goals, here's my goal, and they don't achieve it, and then they got stuck or something else happened and they responded in a way that wasn't so becoming. Every week we're working on limiting beliefs. So
Mhm.
it makes it easier for them to hit their goals. So that's where the mindset coaching comes in.
Yeah.
Um, and then I also have a core clarity circle that meets every Wednesday. And that's just an opportunity to have people come in and ask questions like, what is energy healing? We can, if somebody has something they want to bring up, I have a healing circle where somebody gets to be, one person can kind of have a quick little session on it. It's about 10
Mm.
minutes long. And then it's talking about mindset because mindset is so important to think differently.
Oh,
And
yes.
so there's different levels that people can, sample what I do because it is powerful. Um,
It is. It's
and
so powerful.
investing in themselves. I mean, a lot of people like, I can't afford it. Like, can you afford to be miserable? And granted, it's, everybody's in a different financial, but what is it costing you to be stuck in your pain and in that feedback loop that is not getting you where you want to be?
Well, I think even like, doing like a session with you once a month is my plan, at least. In
Yeah.
some months I can do more, but for me right now, and that has been a huge weight, even just, I've only done 2 sessions, but I already feel like this huge weight lifted for me. Um, and so I think if people can just, yeah, meet them where they are, you
Yeah.
say, okay, where are you at? How can I help?
Yep. Yeah. And again, that's, I've had people who are like, if you knew me, you wouldn't want to do this on me. Like, no, this is the reality is we all have things in our closet. We all have this
Oh
dialogue
yeah.
going through. And I don't look at it any other way to go, I'm blessed that I'm honored that God chose me to say, I get to help somebody relieve some pain and sadness and worthiness in them that they didn't realize was holding them back.
Yeah.
And I've done sessions with people that I know, and I've
Hmm.
done sessions on people that I've never met. So to get certified through the belief code and the body code and the emotion code, you've got to do a certain number of sessions. So
Hmm.
I did sessions through email. They would send to me like, here's my name, here's my age, here's where I'm stuck at.
Mm.
And I would do a session for them, send them the information and go, let me know if this resonates.
Oh, so
And
you would do like a remote one?
correct. But it
Okay.
was most through email. Like there was no dialogue.
Well,
It was,
yeah, I think that's what I mean by remote. So you
yes,
weren't like you weren't like on a Zoom or anything like that.
correct. Yes,
Because
yes.
I haven't, yeah, I've done a few with a body code
Okay.
with a couple of different practitioners, and there was a few remote ones where I couldn't, time was, not willing. So, and then I've done the Zoom ones, and they're both very powerful. It's all
Yeah.
very powerful.
Yeah. And where I think with if I'm doing strictly to the belief code and body code, you can
Yeah.
do that effectively.
Mm.
Because when I do things and I'm having a conversation and I say age 33 or age 17 or age 11, um,
Hmm.
when they can go, yes, that's when,
Mm.
I'm able to do additional healing of what comes up on that. So that's where I find a
Yeah.
value to be able to do a Zoom. And then if they happen to live in Vegas, we can do a face-to-face, and that's powerful as well. But again, the subconscious is going to make it easy. So if all you can do is a email session and have dialogue that way, that
Hmm.
is to that person's highest and best, and is just as powerful in releasing it. Those items. It just for some people having that, oh, I didn't realize this, and this is what happened at age 11, and then we can do some additional work, or sometimes that takes the energy on a whole different perspective. I
Yeah.
will add the cool thing is I've also had people during the sessions where I'll say age 11 and it's
Hmm.
silent, or they'll say, oh, I don't know if it was this or this.
Yeah.
And I can muscle test, like if they're like, oh, it could be this or it could be that. And I'll just muscle test. Is it
Yeah.
this? Is it that? So they don't even have to say things out loud. It's that energy. And even somebody who like
Hmm.
doesn't want to say it out loud, I don't, I like whatever you're thinking is exactly what it is. And that's okay. Let's do some healing on that specifically. So some people aren't ready to say things out loud, or, because that's brings out a whole different emotion, but I'm still getting to the root of it and able. So the other analogy that I use is when something first happens, it's like a silver magnet, and that
Mm.
silver magnet is the imbalance. So let's just use somebody whose parent had left at age 3. Then all of a sudden they're in kindergarten and their best friend no longer is their best friend. They ditch them for somebody else. There's
Hmm.
another magnet that goes to that first one. And then
Oh.
every time they feel abandoned, so maybe in high school, their crush no longer had anything to do with them. So that's validating, oh, you leave me too.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden they get this reject me on their forehead, or they become a people pleaser because now if I please everybody, they won't leave me. And it
Hmm.
just keeps putting all of these magnets back to this first one. And I look at it as when I'm doing the sessions, it's taking all of the energy out of the magnets. And that's how I witness it, to say, that's no longer, that's not tied to you anymore. That's released. We've cut cords. We've done all of this thing to energetically release it, so that you may be able to talk about it in a whole new way that you were never able to before. And I've had many people after we've done a session just going, yeah, it feels different when I say this out loud, because they want to share it. Maybe that's part of their story and they do public speaking. That's part of their story. And now they can say it in a way that doesn't bring them back to that pain. So it's just, again, creator will give somebody what they need, how they need it at that perfect moment in time.
I love it. Yes, and I believe it, and I believe in you. And
Thank you.
and is there any final words that you would like to share with my audience? Um, about what, the work that you do or what you offer?
I think more some, I mean, if anybody resonates and wants to talk to me or work with me specifically, I would be grateful. I would be honored. But I think more importantly is realize that there's other options to release things that are going through in our heads.
Mhm.
Some people may resonate with my message, but something they don't fully resonate with me. Then you know what? There's so many other practitioners that do belief work, that do other modalities of healing. And just to know that we're not meant to suffer and our words matter. And when we can start shifting that, it puts us in a different place. And when that puts us in a different place, we show up in a healthier, happier way, even for the moment. So just to give themselves grace and realize that they're not ready for this now, the right person, the right thing, the right opportunity will show up for them when they choose to be open to it. So
Wow.
if somebody wants to work with me, I would be honored. But if everything I'm saying makes sense and there's somebody else, like just do what's best for you,
Mm.
because that's how we heal the world and the communities and the people that are around us is when we show up differently. Sometimes people are going to leave our lives, but maybe those people were supposed to have left before and we've
Oh,
held on to them in ways because of that. So sometimes just the other thing I say is trusting the process. Like when I walked away from my corporate job, it was trust the process and walk in faith. Those are the two things that got me through. Trust the process and walk in faith that I am being guided to this. And when I did that, the right people and the right things showed up. And then it's just showing gratitude for it. So even if you're doing those steps to do what's better for you right now,
mhm.
um, it's that's how you're able to show up. People are able to show up better in their lives.
I love that. Yes. And how can people get a hold of you and reach you?
Yeah, so through social media, it's Your Best Awaits. And if they go to my website, it's yourbestawaits.net. And it talks, it shows a little bit about what I do, the services that I offer. For the most part, it's doing individual sessions or the mindset coaching that is a
Mhm.
3-month commitment to saying I'm ready to take a step to truly step into my purpose and my passion because that's what's important to me. And then again, at this point, I'm doing weekly calls on Wednesdays. And if they want to participate or have questions, email me through the website and I'll get back to them answering their questions.
That is so awesome. And I'm going
So
to put everything in the show notes here.
thank you.
And one final question that I ask all my guests. What is fueling your life force lotus today?
you know, I I went to a carnivore retreat in Tennessee,
Yes.
and doing sessions on people who knew nothing about it. Some people were resistant and just said, okay, I don't know if I understand it, but I'm open to it.
Hmm.
And that was the first time since I've done healing where I was like, I am in awe every time I do a session of how spot on it is for that person.
Yeah.
So as I'm stepping into my purpose of this is what I'm meant to be doing, it's not, this is the first time in my life I have not questioned, am I doing the right thing? Am I on purpose?
Mm.
Now it is, how do I allow other people who may not be in my circle, in my radar, to be able to hear this. So that's where I'm grateful for you giving me the opportunity to talk and share this, because that's how people heal. So for me, it was knowing and having a session, and so many back to back in that trip were just spot on. And I'm like, I can't make this up. And I'm in awe every time that the subconscious opens up, and God,
Mhm.
the angels, our creator, our guides are the ones going, nope, these are the ones that need to be plucked out. So that
Mm.
is just that validation of thank you, God, for giving me the opportunity to step into my purpose. Like I know this is what I'm meant to be doing.
Oh, and I know too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you could, just book a session with Vikki and you will see the magic unfold and happen in ways you cannot believe. And I truly believe that this is your calling and your mission because you're just you're a magical person
Thank you. And then if
to
somebody,
know.
for the first session, for somebody who books that with the code LOTUS, LOTUS, then
Okay.
I will do a 20% discount for the first session.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that.
Yes. So for the first session, and again, just to show, appreciation for listening to you and listening through this whole podcast,
Yes.
realizing this is something they're interested in. So that's my gift to you as well as your listeners.
Thank you so much,
Yep.
Vikki.
You're welcome.
And thank you for coming on today. And I will definitely have to have you back on at some point because you're just amazing and I could just talk to you forever.
I know. Well, thank you. And it's a pleasure. And like, it's been great to get to know you and how I can support you knowing that, you're laying out your foundation of where you're passionate. Like these are your passion projects and,
Yes, I'm very
congratulations for you for
passionate.
doing that.
I'm just passionate about just sharing things that have helped me heal and I know that they will help others. What heals us heals the masses, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm very thankful for you. So thank you very much, Vikki.
Well, thank you.